All right. Hey, good to see y'all back. Don's recovered from his nose ablation, whatever they call it. He called it the Roto-Rooter. We got him all cleaned up, and his tank's empty now. So good to see y'all back. And Emily's here with a baby girl growing in her tummy who's spending her time kicking her and keeping her awake. And Joseph's excited, and Grandma Blue's happy. I know Blue. What's the first part?
Whatever.
Mama Blue. Okay. Everybody's happy. We're gonna have a little baby screaming here in a couple of months, and we got one in Arizona screaming. So anyway, it's hard not to smile right now, right? So anyway, we'll sing 178 in our songbooks. The Bible Stands. 178. We'll sing just 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4 on the stanzas, and then we'll get to the message in Ecclesiastes today. Remember now that Creator, and it's odd because that's in the days of that youth, so we got all this youth that's about to happen. So kids keep us young, right? That's why I'm ready for school to start. Just get back to some good old youth energy. All right, the Bible stands. The Bible stands like a rock, undaunted amid the raging storms of time. Its pages burn with the truth eternal, and they glow in the lights of light. The Bible stands, though the hills may tumble, it will firmly stand when the earth shall crumble. I will plant my feet on its firm foundation, for the Bible stands. The Bible stands like a mountain towering far above the works of man. Its truth by none ever was refuted, and destroy it they never can. The Bible stands, though the hills may tumble, it will firmly stand when the earth shall crumble. I will plant my feet on its firm foundation, for the Bible stands. The Bible stands, every test we give it, for its author is divine. By grace alone I expect to live it, and to prove it and make it mine. The Bible stands, though the hills may tumble, it will firmly stand when the earth shall crumble. I will plant my feet on its firm foundation, for the Bible stands. We can sing one more. What was the one we practiced before service started? You remember? You don't remember? And it wasn't Satisfied, was it? Mom, do you remember what that song was we practiced before service? Off the top of your head? Nobody? Don, do you remember what song it was? Do what, Mom? Joseph, what was the song?
Hum it.
Huh?
Hum it.
No, I can't. Let's do first and last at 427. I think you got that one. 427. I think you got it. If not, you just play the chords. Just jump over here and play chords. It's done. What do you think? All right, 427, Sweet By and By. There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar. For the Father waits over the way to prepare us a dwelling place there in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful shore. To our bountiful Father above, we will offer our tribute of praise for the glorious gift of His love and the blessings that hallow our days in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on that beautiful right, good singing, sweet by and by. One day, the beautiful shore, boy, it's just something cool to think about what the day of heaven's going to look like when we get to see Jesus Christ face to face. All right, we'll take our Bibles and turn to Ecclesiastes chapter number 12, and we'll just be really that whole chapter all morning, but Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse number 1 from the subject matter of remember now thy Creator. It's quite interesting when we begin to think about the dynamics of life. Have you ever woke up and thought, where did time go? You're like, I remember just last week I was 10, now I'm 47. Like, what in the world has happened? We kind of hit on this a little bit in Sunday school, but we'll hit more on it here now this morning. But there's a guarantee that we all face in life, and that is, we're all going to die one day, and it's not necessarily a negative thing if you live it right when it comes to your life. It's interesting that people that waste their life on riotous living, but get right toward the end, have a lot of joy at the end because they got things right. So to get it right early and live it the days of your life, there's just joy all throughout. And joy isn't necessarily always equal to happiness. It's just the spirit you carry as you're living your life. So remember now thy Creator. Life's days fleet faster and faster. And I was thinking back in my life, and y'all may agree with me, there are certain times in my life where I feel like time stood still. One of those times was when I finally turned 10. I couldn't wait to be 2 digits. That was just a big deal. And I thought, man, when I turned 10. And the next time that stood still was kind of that driver's license permit time. I could not wait to drive. And it felt like I can't wait to be 16. The other times that stood still in life were I can't wait to graduate. Getting to that day where I walked across the stage, they gave me my diploma, and I'm finally free. Except I wasn't. And when I finally got my driver's license, I experienced freedom, but it wasn't free. You had to pay, you had to work for insurance, work for gas, work on the car. You're like, where's this freedom at? Like, it feels like when I go backwards, the less I had, the more free I was. Like, all I had to worry about was waking up, eating, and cleaning my room. That's not a bad life, I don't feel like. And then it's waiting until the day you get married. You're like, time stands still. Another time, Don, that I thought about that stood still was day 1 of basic training up until the day I graduated. I didn't think those days would ever end. Like, are we ever going to leave? I don't know if you had a memory like this, but it was the last week of boot camp. And we had always marched with partners. And we were walking. We had some base Liberty Day with our family for graduation. And don't you turn that air. No, go ahead. All ice falling in here. We need snowflakes.
We got it.
We got our first church split right here. Here it goes. I remember me and my partner. His nickname was Opie. We were both from Alabama. We were marching back to the dorm. It was our final week. It was in our blues, and we were kind of like chit-chatting among ourselves in a silent form, like, we can't believe we made it. We're marching. And we felt somebody staring at us. And I don't know why we felt it, but we felt it, looked over, and there was a captain that we marched right past and failed to salute. Well, they tell you in basic training, that's an automatic washback. 2 weeks. Our families are there. Everybody's there to celebrate graduation. I want to say we're 2 to 3 days from going to tech school at that point, AIT training, similar thing. And man, when you're talking about just turning white, all we needed to do, we stopped, we did and we saluted and just held it until he saluted back. He marched over to us and saluted. He said, "Y'all better pay attention." Yes, sir. Gave our report statement, marched on to the dorm. We're like, we didn't say a word the rest of the time. Like, we're looking for officers everywhere. But it's just a time in life where time stood still. Getting to like, wow, is time ever going to go by? And then you get to a certain phase in life where you're like, would time hurry up? You get to a certain phase of life where you're like, time stop. Like, I feel like I'm at a phase in life now where it just goes by so fast. It's like I'm almost feel like I'm on the straight down slide. Not that it's miserable, but it's like, man, time is flying by. Like, retirement will be here before we know it. Like, grandkids will be young adults, and like, what in the world? I'll be more wrinkly than I am straight, and grayer than I am color, and just wow, time, please stand still. Life fleets by us, and all of that, when you start thinking about the time stamp of life, it's all lived in the scope of eternity, because all this stuff's accountable before the Lord. And so we live in light of eternity. And Solomon, I told a youth group this once at a bonfire meeting up in Indiana. I said, Ecclesiastes 12 was preached to a youth group. Because he says, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. So then it makes me stop and pause for a minute. Even if I'm not a youth group, is this applicable to me today? What's youth in light of God's time stamp? Am I old to God or am I young to God? The Bible tells us a day with the Lord's 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. How many days have I lived, and how many thousands of years is that to God? What's time really to God? He's not bound by time or space, but surely when it comes to our birth and our death, we surely are what we can do. He says, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not. Nor the years draw nigh, or when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Why remember God early is because when you get older, things slow down and things hurt. There's not as much pleasure in life physically as there was when you were surely young. So can I start now? Well, sure. I love getting around old people, and I mean that with all sense of respect, but it's so much fun when we had a seniors ministry in Indiana, listening to the old people talk about sitting around we'd have a room full of 20 or 30 seniors. They got to talking about their ages. And you'd hear one talk about being 70, one talk about being 60, and that 70-year-old say, well, the 60-year-old, wait till you turn 70, it gets even worse. Then you hear one chime in on the table, well, I'm 84, you whippersnappers. They're like, it's so much fun. Youth is really, I guess, a relative statement. It really is. You make yourself as old as really, I guess, you feel. So is it ever a time where we can just stop and pause and say, you know what, I want to remember God now because I know times are coming, if I live to be 80, 90 years old, that it can be worse, physically. So physically I'm going to suffer then. I want to start living for God now so I can talk about all the pleasure I had in serving God with all the ability I have. I showed Misty a video last night of a lady we had in our church. I saved it on my phone. She had some major leg pain. She went through some major surgery, and after her surgery she was bound to a wheelchair. She couldn't walk again. The recovery was just impossible at her age. She was over 80 years old. But up until that point, when she was able to come to church, she would take her fingers and just arthritic knuckles and everything, and she would still play the piano and just do a great job, in my opinion. I couldn't play the piano that good if I practiced for 4 years without arthritis, and she would just do such a good job playing that piano. And that was the joy of her life. And it was so cool because after going to visit her when she was after her surgery, she got down to a nursing home. So I went to go visit her and roll her around in a wheelchair around the home, and she wanted to look at the parakeets and the things they have in the home to just bring them some pleasure. They had a little piano in the lobby. And she would ask me to roll her up to the piano, and she'd just want to play that piano. And there was a hymn book there. I brought one. I can't remember really that. But she opened it up, and we opened up to a song she knew, and she sat and looked at the music and just played that hymn. And you could see kind of the wheels turning in her head, the days of pleasure she had serving God in her youth through playing that piano, regardless of what physical she was going through. The Bible talks about remembering now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. Solomon was the wisest man to ever live apart from Christ. And at the end of his journey in Ecclesiastes, he basically summed it up like this. Your life can be defined by vanity, or your life can be defined by service to God. And we got to be careful not to... be careful to delineate this. All things are not vanity, but vanity can be sown into all things. It's not bad to have things, but when those things begin to be your God and be your excuse to not serve God. For instance, think about this for a minute. And I'm not picking or poking eyes. It's just a matter of fact. There are people that have kids that say, I can't go to church because I got to maintain my kids. Well, that becomes a vain thing, right? That becomes something. I can't go to church, or I can't serve God. And they begin to list their things that are keeping them out of service and fellowship with God. And Solomon says, look, the things aren't necessarily a problem, but when the things get in the way of your relationship with God, that becomes a vain thing in your life. Does God bless us with things? Yes, He does. But when that blessing becomes the reason we stop serving God, God's got a way of getting our attention. So, in his pursuit of pleasure, Solomon that is, he defined it up by saying, look, I had all the possessions. And he said, I'm going to tell you something about all those possessions. Everything was vanity and vexation of spirit. And that's like a Debbie Downer. Like of all things, of the wisdom Solomon's going to give at the end of his life, he says this: everything you got's going to control you, so just be in love with God. Just keep things in balance. Matter of fact, I heard a preacher say this, and it's some of the wisest stuff he ever said. He said,